AI is an incredible opportunity, right? And I don't know any single person who's not anxious about what it means for their job, whether they're going to get laid off, whether the world, how the world is going to change. And as someone who's been working in this space for like 20 plus years, I finished my PhD, like I have been working with so many projects that I had a particular lens that, I quit the big companies like a year and a half ago to share some of this. I think the big thing that you must have all have noticed is, from hybrid work to the creator and gig economy to Gen AI, social media, financial markets, like there are these changes that are like rippling through the businesses almost like every 2-3 months. And what that really means is, like this rapid change means that the pace of change has gone like through the roof. We need to adapt. We need to be proactive. And there's an implication of this that people haven't realized, in the, I'm going to say pre-COVID era that has accelerated. And that affects, I'm going to say, those of us that want to keep and excel with their work. So what does that mean with regards to adapting? I think the big thing is that no one really knows how we should adapt. Like people like me who've been doing this for a long time, we can tell you stories of how the MIT professors who started the AI lab got it wrong when they were creating the lab even, right? Like there is a lot to be figured out. No one really knows. Anyone that is claiming that they can predict the future really has just overconfidence in themselves. But that doesn't mean that we can't do anything. The essence of it is iterating, learning, figuring out how to take things in small projects to basically run experiments. And then when there are things that are larger topics, just figuring out how to upskill yourself. If I have to leave you with a message, it's that. It's that, we need to be in this world to be proactive, focusing on upskilling ourselves, and of course, making things happen. So what does this mean for AI, right? Like, okay, we need to adapt, but there's lots of people that are saying like AI is going to get general intelligence and solve and do everything. The reality, though, is that yes, it's going to do a lot, but it does have its superpowers. What is it? I'm not necessarily going to tell you that, but I am going to say that its superpowers are different from humans. So if you're trying to say that it'll do everything in your job, you're a little bit wrong, right? So don't expect it to do everything. And since you have to adapt, and everyone is adapting, and people are basically going to be the bottleneck, right? And so think about how you're going to change your job by 10% next year, next 3 months, right? And that's where you kind of need to focus on. And what that really means, we're collaborating with the AI. We're not asking it to do the work for us. People in higher ed, in the school systems are worried that it's going to do your homework. I mean, sure, it'll do your work for you. Start with that mindset. But you're fooling yourself if you're actually expecting that it's going to do good work for you, right? You collaborate with it. You figure out where it's good at. I've spent hours trying different, I'm going to say, ways to collaborate with it to actually get something helpful. And then, yeah, I did spend, for the last thing that I was working, I spent 4 hours creating different kinds of prompts. I did get an incredible series of answers at the end of it that really helped me with my work. But it's because I went back and forth with it. I didn't accept everything. I thought about it. You kind of need to go from being an information worker to a philosopher, right? Like asking the right questions. And of course, you need to do a lot of experimentation, experimentation and learning sort of go hand in hand. So really, if you're asking me what is AI good at, well, I have more answers. But really, I think we all need to become people that can really figure it out. And I think experimentation and, as I said, learning, one easy, real human way to do that is finding mentors who've got that experience, who've been doing it for 10, 20 years. Not necessarily 40 years, who might have been stuck in their way. And I guess that goes into if I have to leave you with a message of what you should focus on going forward is yes, be proactive, yes, do, right? And then balance the ideas of learning and experimentation at the same time. And I put those two in different buckets because you experiment to learn, and you kind of learn to experiment as well. Like there's different things in different horizons. And in fact, like this part, the finding mentors is something that I've been very sort of obsessed with over the last year. Like I built, this is where I'm focusing on because I care so much about helping people up-level themselves, helping people figure out that work and succeed in this new AI era, right? Like what does it mean to have an AI mentor? We've done, we started with your classic chatbots, right? But we took it from there to see what was actually working. Where are human mentors significantly better? How can technology do better? How can AI do better, I guess? And how can we build a sophisticated platform to enable that? I don't want to necessarily just leave you with a message of, AI mentors are going to be the future, but just thinking about the 10% change that you need to do to actually sort of thrive in your work, this is what I've seen in the last 2-3 years. The difference between those that are getting laid off and those that are adapting and really succeeding, adapting as well as being proactive towards making stuff happen when the amount of vagueness in your job is just going through the roof. Right? Companies are like hands down, they're like 50% of the companies I'm talking to, they're saying that their company culture has become one of sink or swim, right? So figure out how you can handle that culture. Don't get too overwhelmed. Everyone is struggling with it. Thank you.
I hope I haven't misunderstood your talk. I was a little bit lost, to be honest, about it, because when I think of AI, it's very easy to throw a blanket label of AI in terms of the work environment. So if I look at companies, especially in the biotech area, if I'm a worker down there, I'm leveraging the power of, say, AlphaFold 3 and protein folding for drug discovery. For me, it's a fantastic tool. And if I work with a mentor, I've got most of my answers actually from AlphaFold 3 that my mentor could not give me. So I'm just trying to understand the kind of sophisticated scenarios where AI is being used far more productively, right? Where does this fit in? Because are you just talking about Joe Blogs at any job? That's what's kind of getting lost about.
Yeah,
trying to understand.
Yeah, so I should be clear about that.
Yeah,
right?
That wasn't clear to me at all because I have to admit, in a lot of the different startups that I'm involved in, my teams use AI very effectively to help even within their own career progression in terms of leveraging that, right? It's really worked to their advantage. The productivity that we get out of them as a result of them collaborating with AI is extra phenomenal. So I was kind of lost in terms of where this fits in. Right?
Yeah, so the bigger the company, the bigger the struggle that I've seen. Mm-hmm. The bigger the sort of culture shock is with these new changes. Mm-hmm. But a large part of the anxiety that I'm seeing is in those people who are straight out of college, the first 10 years, who are basically saying, well, who are seeing the message that AI is going to do their job, right? And that companies don't necessarily need to hire them, right? And they are able to succeed and they are able to thrive, but they need having them pair with somebody with what I was saying, 20-ish years experience feels like the sort of the secret, I guess. So the companies that you're saying where you're finding, in these biotech companies, would you say that they are 100-person companies, larger?
Yeah, they're mixed. Everywhere from 6 people up to 100 people. When you look at companies like Novartis and how they're leveraging it within their teams, there's quite a lot of productivity that's happening down there. But it's also using the expertise of the people who've got 20, 30 years experience to use their brain power in conjunction with this to really come up with formidable solutions. Right? So that's what I'm seeing,
right.
Which is a little bit different from you. But let me put it the other way around. So, you've got young students who've joined the likes of consultancy firms. As you know, consultancy firms have been badly hit at this moment because of Dodge and whatever, and cutbacks with the government, whatever. So it's forcing the consultancy firms to re-innovate, to get that competitive advantage over their competitors, to offer new services. So of course there's going to be some form of redundancy in terms of people's expertise down there where AI is taking over. So again, I'm kind of lost in terms of where this all fits in terms of finding a mentor. If you're going to be no use to me, you're out anyway. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, so that, like, I mean, you know, where I'm responding to is like that exact attitude, right?
Right.
If you're no use to me, you're out.
Yeah.
Like finding the right person.
And you're a cost.
Yeah, exactly. And what I'm seeing is a significant amount of, there was a presentation earlier where they were talking about how much there is negative hype attached to AI right now, right? There's a significant amount of anxiety and fear that people are like, well, maybe I just want to stay away from AI.
Yeah,
Right?
again, this is such a broad blanket statement about AI because if you're in the biotech world,
Yeah,
it's not a threat. It's not.
I haven't looked specifically in the biotech world,
Yeah.
and I wonder how much of this is in the specific parts of these companies that you've been working
Yeah.
at. I've definitely seen a lot of struggles, and in particular from that, people with 0 to 10 years of experience, like
Right.
people who want to sort of work, their butts off to make a difference, but are still like trying to figure out the right match.
Great. Audience, any questions? I mean, this is a kind of a sensitive subject as well because, I'm just playing devil's advocate with him because it's easy to say human beings are disposable. It's very easy because I'm not just a Brit, I'm also from Africa, and I can see, how do we democratize this? How do we use this in Africa, for example? Do we have any purpose in this new world era? Where do we fit in? So I hear what you're saying, but it just would be great to hear from the audience what you guys,
I think there used to be, or there still is, a digital divide among people. We just, in our bubble here, we don't recognize it. And then this is going to be even more exacerbated with an AI divide. So we talk about democratization of AI and so on, and it's true, but there's still a divide in demographics, age, geographies, and we're not really thinking about it because we're racing to be on the forefront, and all of us are innovators and so on.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point where lots of people here just are innovators. Paul LeBlanc is... Yeah, right. Someone I really respect is Paul LeBlanc. He's used to be the ex-president of Southern New Hampshire University. And he was just basically talking about how, we are moving from an information economy where people, information workers were trying to figure out that stuff to where AI can do that. And so really, and there's a whole talk about this, but really we're moving into a place where caring matters. And he talks about it as the care economy. That is, where people like social workers and people who value the bedside manners starts to matter more. But that's a whole conversation.
You've touched on a belief I have, which is really the most powerful use cases for Gen AI are human in the loop, right? Exactly. Because really, look, people do things better at certain things, right? And Gen AI does other things at scale better, right? And you're trying to say, well, where's the line between? Well, that depends on the use case. It depends on the people, and it depends on what you're trying to do, and it depends on, blah, 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 blah. And it's really try it, right? Right. And it's specific for a purpose in an enterprise, for instance, on their data with that expertise. Maybe it's an underwriter in an insurance company, right? But he's got all this other data he's looking at. So that it seems like that line naturally comes out of the work. Do you agree with that?
I mean, yes. And I think that this year, so I was looking at some numbers in terms of enterprise adoption of AI. This year is expected when most of the Gen AI prototypes are finally going to get into production, and some of the agentic applications are going to start to hit, whether it is sales or marketing or the different use cases. There is definitely a certain amount of productivity boost that you're going to get immediately with that, right? When you're not having to go into ChatGPT to do everything, right? So yes, a lot of this line will come up through the use case as we figure it out and as we get better and better tools. But we are also in a world where the standards are of yesterday. We want to maintain a certain amount of quality and expectations that we had from a world before Gen AI, and then now we've got customer support bots that can respond completely automatically, but not necessarily with the same level of quality. And so then how do you figure out how to integrate those things? So yes, it comes from the use case and comes from a little bit of an understanding that you're trying to I'm going to say, maintain some of the standards of the old while we're sort of adopting these technologies.
Any other questions? Give you a chance here.
Hi, thank you for your talk. So I was interested in kind of what our peer was saying earlier about like humans interacting with the model, and like what comes to mind is like prompt engineering, which kind of is like a topic that people are talking about. Could be the next big thing. But I guess my question is like, first, what are your thoughts about prompt engineering, and also can like I guess like prompt engineering is very much like a human like centered feedback kind of I guess like architecture, but can you see a future where that can kind of also be replaced by another AI or something that's more computer like related?
Well, so I mean, I'm building, as part of the startup, I'm building a agentic system that is actually doing prompt engineering. So yes, kind of. I think the prompt engineering is going to be incredibly valuable. Like, I do believe that there's going to be lots of jobs, and that every person may need to do, I don't know, 10%, maybe some people, depending on the job, 80% prompt engineering, right? Like that's, you see the need, you see it from your use case, dive into it, I guess.
Great.
Done?
Last question, thanks. 30 seconds to respond.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I really like how you mentioned about the anxiety with AI, where there's a lot of unfamiliarity. So do you feel the anxiety is because people just have a very broad understanding of what is AI, but they do not actually know that what is it built on and what is it actually doing? So when you say that to find a mentor, you experiment and you learn, do you think everything again boils down to understanding the fundamentals of computer science, trying to understand how exactly an AI is built? And when there is a lot of familiarity, do you think there will be a decrease in the anxiety with usage and how you can interact with it moving forward?
Yes, familiarity will help you reduce your anxiety.
Right.
Expertise and experience, and this is why I was saying like finding a mentor will help with that. Other sources of learning will help with that. I think the biggest source of anxiety is that it's just such an unfamiliar new technology that is rapidly changing. And I think there's lots of people with a vested interest who are selling fear.
Right.
So it's actually being sold to you to some extent, and that's why people have anxiety. And it is what it is. But there's a lot of people who are out there figuring it out, making stuff happen. And as you do stuff, you're gonna be able to manage
More
it.
familiar, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Don't close your computer and run away from
Right.
it.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks, Vineet. It was fantastic.